Franchise tag deadline is today at 4 o'clock Eastern. The Bengals, to their credit, they don't want to have any fax machine issues like the Broncos had with Elvis Dumervil years ago. They don't want to have any deadline snafu. They franchise tagged Tee Higgins on Monday. $26.16 million, and that's because last year he was tagged at, I think it was 20.9. Right. By rule, you get a 20% raise when you're tagged the second time. $26.16 million, fully guaranteed the moment he accepts it. Until he accepts it, he's not under contract, and he doesn't have to show up for anything. He can skip the offseason, obviously, most of it's voluntary. He can skip the mandatory minicamp. He can skip preseason. He can wait until right before the start of the regular season, show up, sign the tender, and get his full $26.16 million. The only risk is they can rescind it at any time. Rarely happens, but it has happened. Most recently, Josh Norman in 2016, maybe 17, I believe it was. So it can happen, but I can't imagine they do it to Tee Higgins. They've announced that they're applying the franchise tag with the intention of signing him to a long-term deal. So that's where we are. There's plenty to unpack, though. Plenty to unpack as it relates to this move. It's rare that the Bengals tag someone twice. Rare. I think it may be unprecedented that they tag someone twice. It's rare that they sign someone to an extension once they've tagged them once. So this is new territory for the Bengals, especially if they turn this into a long-term deal, Chris.
Yes, well, it's new territory for the Bengals altogether because they're relevant and they got a quarterback that's a superstar. He's a worldwide superstar, so we're watching them closer than we ever have in the history of the Cincinnati Bengals. And that's no disrespect to Boomer Esiason or Kenny Anderson, who were awesome quarterbacks back in the day for the Bengals. Carson Palmer, sure, whatever, right? All damn good. But Joe Burrow, as we know, has definitely lifted this organization to a spot I don't think we've seen it in a stratosphere where we're, even when they're not in the playoffs, we're talking about them, right? So that's the Joe Burrow effect, let alone Joe Burrow. I think we both feel is got a lot of say within this organization, and I think he's letting it be known, just like we showed in the opening, that he doesn't want good players on that football team walking out the door. There's definitely a feeling in there in Cincinnati last year that things weren't addressed by the front office and that the coaches and players knew there were some areas on the team that needed to be improved, right? So all of that's led to extra attention on this. And then added extra attention because damn Tee Higgins is good. He's really good. I mean, awesome good. One of the best receivers in football. And then when you combine that with Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow, yeah, we're all paying attention because when we see them playing good, they are one of the most fun teams to watch, just like we saw at the end of the year. Watching Burrow and the Bengals and Chase and Higgins go up and down the field on every defense in football was some of the coolest stuff we got to see the last 7 or 8 weeks of the year. That's why all of us were sitting there going, I mean, if they get in the playoffs, watch out, right? That was the thing. The other thing is, Mike, and maybe you can explain how the franchise tag formula is, because this is the other issue. This is a no-brainer for the Bengals. $26 million for this caliber of a receiver? I mean, it's a no-brainer. He's a player that, I mean, is up there with the upper echelon receivers, in my opinion. You were asking me, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Tee Higgins. Damn, I'd think about it, right? You get me in a Brandon Ayuk, Tee Higgins, who are all making more money than he is. I'd think about it. I definitely would. I'd take Tee Higgins. So we're talking about a guy that I think is top 10-ish receiver in football. And for $26 million, you'll take it. And that's a no-brainer for the Bengals to put this franchise tag on him.
I'm glad you said that, too, because one of the lazy takes out there is that Tee Higgins is only good because of the presence of Jamar Chase.
Oh, that's stupid.
There have been games that Jamar Chase has missed, and Tee Higgins has been spectacular in his absence. I remember that Saturday game against the Vikings, December of 2023. Tee Higgins single-handedly won that game for the Cincinnati Bengals. Made some great catches, was unstoppable, even without Jamar Chase there to draw attention away. So the franchise tag used to be.
Yeah, I know. This is where it's different now.
Yeah. It used to be the average of the 5 highest paid players at the position from the prior year. And by highest paid, it meant the cap number for the prior year. The average of that was the franchise tag. I think it was 2011. The formula changed where it's now the average cap percentage consumed by the 5 highest paid players at the position on a 5-year rolling average, which I know what that is. I'm not sure what it means, but I've looked it up enough times to know what it is. It results in the numbers being lower. I mean, look, the quarterback market is $60 million. That's the top. The franchise tag this year for quarterback position is $40.242 million.
Crazy.
66% of the cap. It used to be, if you're going to apply the franchise tag to the guy, he's guaranteed to be among the highest paid at the position. And now it's just not. The top of the market for receiver is $35 million. And by the time Jamar Chase signs his deal, his new money APY is going to be 40 or higher unless they let it ride. So last year it was $20.9 million. You throw on the 20% increase, it's 26.16, which is now you got to take the full cap charge this year, and you got to come up with the cash this year.
Right.
But that's it. $9 million below the top of the market. Now, here's where it gets interesting, and it gets difficult for the Bengals. When you tag a guy the first time, Chris, the conventional wisdom in the NFL is here's what you do.
Right.
You take what he's going to be paid this year. You take the next year, the 20% bump. So let's say they had tried in earnest to do a deal for Tee Higgins last year when he was making 20.9. You would take 20.9 and 26.16 and add it together, which I think is 47.09. I don't know. Could be wrong. Could be right.
Close. Right.
$47 million becomes the amount that's fully guaranteed at signing. And then maybe you add on a little bit more, but that's how they did it. That's how they did the Dez Bryant long-term deal. What he's going to make under 2 years of the franchise tag, fully guaranteed at signing. And maybe a little extra, and then the phony years on the back end or the non-guaranteed years on the back end, but it's guaranteed for 2 years. You guaranteed 2 years of the tag. So if you did better than that, you did a great deal. If you did less than that, you did a bad deal. That's kind of the conventional wisdom. That's when you're tagged the first time.
Right.
When you're tagged the second time, it's a lot harder to come up with the valuation of a long-term deal. Here's why. Nobody's getting tagged a third time. For quarterback, if you get tagged a third time, what happens is you get a 44% increase over what your tag was the second year. And the number does go haywire, even when it starts low. Okay, 40.24 becomes 48. 1.44 times 48. Let me do that real quick so I get it right, because I don't want to. That's beyond my mathematical capabilities. 48 times 1.44.
Like 170?
$69. $69 million for 1 year to do a tag a third time.
Right.
And I don't know, maybe with the cap where it is now, somebody would do it. But for a non-quarterback, the third tag becomes the average of the 5 highest paid quarterbacks in the prior year. So this year, I looked it up yesterday. It would have been, it's like $41.8 million. The 5 highest cap numbers for quarterbacks last year. No one would be giving a receiver $41.8 million under a tag for 1 year. So the third year, you're gone. You're going to free agency. So if you're Tee Higgins, I got $26.16 million, and I got a straight shot to free agency next year. That's what I have. That's my bird in the hand. To turn that into a long-term deal, the Bengals have to offer him something that gets him to give that up.
Yeah, right.
And so you better give me something good to give that up, because I'm getting good, not top of the market, but I'm getting $26.16 million for 1 season. And I'll be a free agent next year. So what are you going to give me? What are you going to give me? That's how Dak Prescott got his second contract in 2021, because the Cowboys woke up one day and said, holy shit, we're going to have to give this guy a 44% raise next year or let him become a free agent. That was the first time they backed themselves into a corner.
Right.
And then with the contract they did, they backed himself into a deeper corner, and now they're screwed as it relates to Prescott's contract. $90 million cap number this year. I know they'll restructure it, but it's just more to kick down the road, and they're going to have a hell of a mess whenever he's gone from the Cowboys. So long story bearable, good luck, Cincinnati Bengals. The notoriously careful with money Cincinnati Bengals now have to dig deep into Mike Brown's piggy bank to come up with a long-term offer that will get Tee Higgins to give up $26.16 million and a straight shot at free agency. It is going to be far more difficult and expensive than it would have been last year.
Yeah, agreed there. It is going to be more expensive. Now, yeah, I don't love this current formula, how they use the salary cap. That to me is, I don't love that. I do think, just real quick, that puts the power back with the owners, right, and makes it easier to apply the tag. I like the old way better because I felt like it evened the playing field a little bit. Like you said, the average of the top five, they dropped number one, they dropped number five. So it was really the average of 2, 3, and 4, I believe, right, or somewhere thereabouts. But first off, to one of the early comments, the people dragging Tee Higgins. Tee Higgins is a star. Tee Higgins can do it all. Tee Higgins can run by you for a 70-yard bomb with speed. Tee Higgins can high point the ball and 50-50 catch the ball, where, like we joke about sometimes, it's not 50-50, it's 60-40 or 70-30 with a guy like Tee Higgins. He can catch a slant or a screen and go 50 yards to it for a touchdown. He's big. He's physical over the middle. He's, as Joe Burrow said to start the show, he does everything right. He's borderline perfect in how he carries himself and goes about his work ethic. And if you ever met Tee Higgins or around him a little bit in your life, you would go, yeah, that's how I would picture him, because he's one of the nicest humans you'll ever see. So from all of that, hey, they got a player here, and they got something special. And, Mike, you're right. The magic number with all the franchise tag and all that, I don't know what it is. I don't think it's far off from what he's making right now. Right? I don't think it's far off. But, yeah, they got to figure out a way here to extend this, hopefully, give them a big signing bonus, guaranteed money, lower that number. And I would think that they could come up with a way somewhere in the ballpark, maybe just north of where they are in this franchise tag right now, to make it a long-term deal and make it appealing to Tee Higgins to where he thinks about it. And we'll see. It's unlike the Bengals. You're right. I was kind of like, I don't know what the hell they're going to do here because of their history. And I didn't know if they would franchise tag Tee Higgins, but they did. And I'm hoping and I'm rooting for them getting something done here.
Here's the other aspect of their history that becomes problematic. They're one of the few teams that, but for the quarterback, will not typically.
Right.
Because some teams make exceptions, and it's hard to keep track of the exceptions, but they do make periodic exceptions. But typically the Bengals have resisted fully guaranteeing money at signing beyond the first year of the deal.
Yes, right.
Well, I'm guaranteed $26.16 million this year, and then I'll go to free agency and I'll get 2 years of fully guaranteed money. The only thing is I carry the injury risk for one season and the risk that I'm just going to all of a sudden lose my ability to play at a high level. But you bet on yourself. You're making $26.16 on top of the $20.9 you made last year, and you're going to free agency. You better guarantee me money into next year. Why? Unless you're going to pay me $40 million this year, some ridiculous number above the $26.16, why would I trade in my ability to make $26.16 and become a free agent? That's the challenge the Bengals have, and they don't like to guarantee money beyond that first year. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.